Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Movie Television Primetime News, and I'm Keith Mwemba. We'll look at the stories making the headlines this evening. RB to be put to rest on Friday, March 18th, 2022. Veteran politician Vernon Mwanga describes RB as a true patriot. 12 Zambian students who are stuck in Ukraine are back home. Park chairperson declined to comment on corruption allegations. HH phones ECL to mourn RB and unite the country. UPND official arrested in Mansa for defiling wife's niece aged 13 years. Muslim community in Lusaka calls for concerted efforts in helping the vulnerable. Well, you can also watch this news live on Facebook via our handle Ask Movie TV. We now look at the news in details. Republican President Hakainde Hichilema has decided to give a phone call to immediate past President Edgar Lungu to put their perceived differences and mourn the late fourth Republican President Rupia Bozani Banda in a united manner. Mr. Hichilema has, besides the phone conversation he had with Mr. Lungu, he has also assigned his aides to be briefing Mr. Lungu from time to time for the sake of peace and respect to the former head of state. He says the fourth Republican President Rupia Bozani Banda's shoes are too big for anyone to fit looking at what he did while on earth. Mr. Hichilema has charged Mr. Banda prioritize the country before anything else, hence his legacy must be protected by all, more especially the current crop of politicians. He says Mr. Banda's political journey was full of success and therefore Zambians must be proud of his contribution. Meanwhile, Mr. Hichilema has urged Zambians to accept God's will to take the life of Mr. Banda.
We want to indicate that here, my wife and I, representing our family, representing obviously the nation, are here first and foremost to mourn with the Arabi family, to offer our solidarity, to console the family. Mrs. Banda, the children, all of them, micro-family. Over years, that young lady has become my friend, Dunia. She's grown now, she's a lady, and obviously the twin. But I got to get close to her over the years, long before I ever thought I would be president of this country, years back. And obviously the older children, some of them we've been interacting for years, the extended family also. It's unfortunate. And indeed, obviously, the government leaders that are here, represented by Secretary to the Cabinet, that we are in this situation. I was here just a few days ago, and I think it was in a room somewhere where I chatted with President Banda and encouraged him to be strong. And it's unfortunate that God, he who gives, has decided to take, and he takes his. We don't have much of a choice. He gives us life. He takes it. When and how, we don't know. But we accept. We have to accept. I think that's really the message, by and large, I wanted to deliver, that we're with you, family. We're with the nation. And I'm grateful for the words that you've said here, giving us credit, giving this fellow the credit is absolutely inappropriate. I was just performing a duty. But I accept the appreciation. But in retortion, I wish to say that I was just performing a duty, which anyone else in my situation would have been required to perform. But it wasn't just a duty for us, it was compassion as well. I think that's most important. And I wish to say that we drew a lot of guidance from Arabic. Most of you know that this 12th of August last year, 13, 14, 15th of August were very difficult days in the history of our country. And Arabic stood in the middle and kept this country hopeful. And he performed a wonderful function outside there. I think the pool is somewhere this side. What the nation saw was superficial, but behind there he did a lot of work to bring us to the situation that the public all know by now. So we're very grateful for that. We talked unity here in this house. We talked economy in this house. I think for today, I wish to end by encouraging the family to continue with the unity, to coordinate with government. Where we need it, will be available. Where we get stuck, we'll come back to the family through the team that's working with the family, so that we are smooth, we are succinct, we don't demonstrate departure from what he stood for: unity, order. I think that's the best way to remember him. Other things I've said before, that we as a nation should learn from how he desired a better country. But to the broader public, the citizenry, let's work together, let's mourn President Banda. All of us. No divisive issues. If there are issues, we can tackle and deal with them later. But what are those issues? I don't know. I want to confirm to the Banda family that I spoke to President Isiel, asking him that we must all mourn our former president together. I wanted to.
Meanwhile, Mr. Hijlema has urged Zambians to accept God's will to take the life of Mr. Banda.
Side is to offer our sincere, very, very sincere condolences to the family of President Banda, all of the family, without exception. They are in mourning, but we are in mourning as citizens, as a country. I did say inside there that it's a pity that I'm here only a few days away after I was here, chatting with him, encouraging him, drawing advice and counsel from him. A few days later, we come to offer our condolences, and President Banda is gone. We can only be consoled by the acceptance that there's only one who is the giver of life, and that's God. He gives, he takes. When he takes, how, we don't know. Only he decides. We have to accept that, because we're all going the same way anyway. And I think the important thing is to be able to say, let's work together, let's mourn together.
Right, and Your Excellency, we just want to find out how...
Government has announced the late President Rupia Bozani Banda will be put to rest on Friday, 18th March 2022 at the Presidential Burial Site, Embassy Park in Lusaka. Acting Secretary to the Cabinet, Patrick Kangwa, says this follows consultations with the family. He says the church service for invited guests will be held at the Anglican Cathedral of the Holy Cross at 10 hours on the day of the burial. In a statement, Mr. Kangwa says President Hakainde Hichilema has since accorded accorded a state funeral and declared 7 days of national mourning in honor of Mr. Banda, the fourth Republican president who died last week on Friday, 11th March. He says prior to the burial, government will host a state funeral on Thursday, 17th March 2022 at 10 hours at the Lusaka's showgrounds to be attended by foreign heads of state and government and other invited guests. Mr. Kangwa has also announced that the funeral gathering of Mr. Banda has been moved from his Lilai residence to Belvedere Lodge in Kabulonga. Veteran politician Vernon Mwanga has described the death of fourth Republican President Rupia Bozani-Banda a big loss to Zambia as well as the African continent. Mr. Mwanga says President Banda was a statesman with vast experience who contributed immensely to the country in the various roles. Speaking in an interview with Muvi TV News Sunday, Mr. Mwanga says Mr. Banda has died with his expertise while still needed in the nation a few months after the change of government. He says Mr. Banda, who he describes as a long-life brother, will be remembered for various roles in which he served the country, including his role in the peaceful transition of power in the August 12, 2021 general elections. He says current politicians should emulate the late Republican president by practicing politics of peace that they practiced together.
Well, first of all, when I heard about the death of my brother Arabi, who had just returned from Dubai where he was receiving treatment, I went into shock. It was hard for me even to eat food. I just drank water that day and said, I'm not myself, so I better not begin getting involved in issues relating to food. So losing a man like Arabi for the country means a lot because Arabi was a consummate diplomat. He was also a consummate mediator himself. He was a Pan-Africanist who believed in everything that the Organization of African Unity believed in at that time. And when Arabi left Cairo, he was posted as ambassador to Washington, to the United States. And I was at the United Nations in New York. And usually the two missions work together in terms of sharing information, in terms of what's happening in Washington and what's happening at the United Nations. So we continued this relationship with Arabi. He would come to the United Nations during the General Assembly and serve on one of the committees and go back. And when the General Assembly was on break, politics is not war. Politics is about advancing ideas. Occasionally these ideas will differ, which is what happens when there is a difference. And even when you have got differences, democracy has a way of accommodating differences. So when you disagree, you agree to disagree, and it ends there. It's not about war.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mwanga has called for effort in looking after freedom fighters, stating measures are not enough. Mr. Mwanga says the current situation of some freedom fighters is saddening as most of them are failing to feed their families. He says as part of freedom fighters, he is planning to initiate a discussion with government to try and come up with initiatives of helping freedom fighters.
To go to the market, and poor health, collapse on the way. So we have actually initiated a discussion with government about this issue to see if there is a way in which freedom fighters, and there are not so many left now, who are participating in the struggle for independence on a full-time basis. There are very few. To help freedom fighters who fought for the country, they shouldn't feel that their sacrifices were worthless. because the struggle was hard. It was hard. It was not easy. We went without food. There are times when we had to visit our members at very strategic times of the day in the hope that we would be invited for lunch or dinner. Our relatives had to come up with some money to enable us just to survive. So I was fortunate. I came from a family that was enlightened. The sisters were educated. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a teacher. So they used to send some money through the post office, which enabled me and my staff, since I was the head of the office, at least to buy food and live. So the struggle was not easy, and I think that freedom fighters deserve better recognition, and they deserve better help than what I've seen so far. It's not enough to give them medals, because medals will not produce food, will not put food on their tables. It is better to work out an arrangement which would be of some benefit to them, even in this late part of their lives, because many of them are old.
You're watching the primetime news on Muvi television. For now, we take our first set of commercials. We still have more stories. Don't go away.
Fairview University College is enrolling students for the January-April 2022 intake in the following: School of Education, Bachelor of Education in Early Childhood Education, Bachelor of Education in Primary Education, Bachelor of Education in Secondary Education, Bachelor of Education in Special Education, Diploma in Early Childhood Education, Diploma in Primary Education, Diploma in Secondary Education, Diploma in Special Education, Certificate in Early Childhood Education, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Diploma in Public Relations, School of Hotel and Tourism, Diploma in Food and Production, Diploma in Front Office, Diploma in Food and Beverages Management, Diploma in Hospitality and Events Management, and Diploma in Sales and Marketing. For more information, visit us at Regent College along Kwazi Road or the North Mid Campus at plot number 11 Luamba Road, Lusaka, or call us on 0955 787114 or 0966 787114 or 0977 787114. Fairview University College. We aim at excellence.
Istana ya Afrika ya kupende chalo akamwana kanono nomsepela kwikala chapamo kuribe kumunzi kuribe mutauni kumatero ali
Then select Muvi TV, enter the 12-digit smart card number, then enter the amount you wish to pay. Enter the Muvi TV account number, omitting the dash before the last digit. Then select the amount you wish to pay.
For inquiries, call customer care on 0764 250055 or 0764 250052 or 0978 732 411 or 0978 732 412.
Thank you so much for joining us. We continue with the news. Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary Lakson Kasonka says there is a critical shortage of medicines and medical supplies in health facilities. He says despite this, there is little that can be done to immediately restock the medicines and medical supplies due to the long processes of government. He says despite his desire to have health centers restocked, red tape is hindering his actions.
Approximately 1.6 million Africans died of malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV-related illnesses in 2015. According to the World Health Organization, these diseases could have been prevented or treated with timely access to appropriate and affordable medicines, vaccines, and other health services. However, less than 2% of drugs consumed in Africa are produced on the continent. The locally made ones, mostly painkillers such as Panadol, are given to patients as a general treat or sickness drug. Despite initially denying this fact, Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary for Technical Services, Lakson Kasonka, has finally admitted that health facilities in Zambia are in dire need of all medicines and medical supplies. He says the current little stock is quickly running out.
I'll not sit in my office and say, oh yes, everything's there in the hospital. No. Again, it's not because we have no capacity. It's because, you see, as government, it's not what I want by myself. It's about what is right, what are the right procedures to follow. Even if I've got so much power as PS to get medicine in the country, I have to follow the steps that are laid down. There are other regulatory authorities that influence my decisions so that we work together as a network that is premised on correct procedures.
He blames this situation on red tape in government procedures.
That's how government works. Whether that is unfortunate or not, but this is not a private entity. Government is the biggest company you can think about, and there has to be consensus in everything that we do. There's a lot of things I like to do in my office. I like just now and yesterday medicine in the hospital, but I have to follow a lot of guidelines, and it concerns me much more than probably anybody else, because that's my job, to ensure that the drugs in the hospital, and where there are not enough drugs in the hospital, it's me. I keep phone calls. No, we couldn't do this and that because we don't have this and that. This is what I'm trying to get over.
Now, many Zambians continue to experience the sad situation of being forced to spend money on their own consumables and drugs whenever they seek healthcare services. But for Professor Kasonka, he too blames it on government procedures. Virginia Chilongo, Muvi TV News, Lusaka.
Called on different stakeholders in the country to help the vulnerable children, stating government alone cannot address all the needs of the vulnerable children in the country, hence the need for everyone's attention. Speaking when they visited Fountain of Hope Orphanage in Lusaka's Kamwala area, Muslim community representative under BAPS Charities, Chaisa Patel, says stakeholders should work together in responding to the needs of orphans and the vulnerable in society for the betterment of the country.
April 1996, when it was founded, Fountain of Hope has greatly contributed to transforming the lives of some street kids, orphans and vulnerable children. Roger Smuel, who was Member of Parliament for Mwansabombo in Luapula Province, under the Patriot Front PF government, founded Fountain of Hope to accommodate orphans and street kids in the Zambian capital. 2 years ago, Mwewa died and government pledged to continue taking care of the children at the orphanage, but the situation has never been the same. The orphanage has been having challenges in taking care of the children. Various stakeholders like the church has been called upon to come on board and help take care of the children so that they don't end up in streets. It is for this reason Muslim community under Babs has donated some assorted items to the orphanage. And speaking during the handover ceremony in Lusaka, Muslim community representative under Babs Charities, Chais Patel, has called on different stakeholders to help vulnerable children in the country, stating that government alone cannot address all the needs of the vulnerable children in the country, hence the need for everyone's attention.
I think it's actually what our community needs at large, because there are a lot of children here who are neglected, who are probably on the street, maybe due to family circumstances. So we thought this would be an ideal place where we can support in a small way. As we go along, we can support you later on, but we are thought of actually supporting you by giving you various items. Those are the things that you actually just Mayor told us that what you do over here.
Fountain of Hope representative thanks the Muslim community for the help, as it will go a long way.
What you have done is really a great job to the children. And when you look at government focus, it's alternative care. Alternative care is where we are looking at caring for children in orphanages, caring for children in homes, caring for children within foster parents. And this is what the government is focusing on, because at one point the child who's on the street will have a family, but what kind of a family? So what you have done, recognizing Fountain of Hope as an institution where you can come and provide what you have provided for the children, we are grateful.
And some of the children has this to say.
As I would like to say thank you on behalf of my brothers and sisters for these things that you have brought for us. It's not everyone who thinks about us, but we have God has touched their lives, so they should have blessed us. We pray that God Almighty should bless them, and our late father used to say it takes the village to raise a child, and I know these people are part of that village, and I would like to say thank you once again, that God richly bless them in abundance. Thank you.
Margaret Chota, Muvi TV News in Lusaka.
The 12 Zambian students who are stuck in the city of Sami in Ukraine on Sunday morning of 13th March 2022 arrived in the country aboard Qatar Airways from Warsaw, Poland. The 24-year-old Israel Galu, a student representative, expressed his gratitude to the Zambian government for facilitating the movement back home. And speaking upon receiving the evacuees, DMMU National Coordinator Dr. Gabriel Pauline says the evacuation process has now concluded, stating that all Zambians who so wished to be brought back home have been granted their wishes. The Zambia Police Service in Mansa has arrested UPND Luapula Provincial Coordinator George Nsonga for allegedly defiling his wife's 13-year-old niece. Zanis reports that Luapula Province Police Commanding Officer Sharon Zulu has confirmed the development in Mansa District. Mrs. Zulu says at around 9-10 hours, police in Mansa received a report from Mebotende, age 45 of Kalikeka village in Chief Kalasa Lukangaba chiefdom, that her 13-year-old niece was defiled by her husband George Nsonga, age 54, of the same address. He says the incident happened between March 10th, 2022 and March 11th, 2022 at around 23 hours at Mr. Nsonga's house. Facts are that on the fateful day, the couple and other family members retired to bed, and quietly the husband woke up, leaving the wife asleep, and sneaked in the victim's room where he had carnal knowledge with the minor. The commanding officer stated that Mr. Nsonga allegedly threatened the victim that he would kill her if she reported to anyone of what he had done to her. However, the following day, March 11th, the victim told the auntie, who is the complainant, about the ordeal, who then reported the matter to the police at Mansa Central Police Station, where medical reports were also issued for the victim to be examined at the hospital. Mr. Nsonga has since been arrested and will appear in court soon. Well, we take another set of commercials. We still have more stories.
Anyone can get lucky.
with the news. Bwana Mkubwa, Member of Parliament Warren Mombazi, who is also chairman of the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee, has declined to comment on whether or not he belongs to the unregistered company Balam Limited that has been implicated in the supply of face masks to the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit (DMMU) and was paid over 14 million kwacha. However, Mr. Mombazi says corrupt elements should be fought to ensure sanity is restored in the country.
Zambians, regardless, corruption is not only in the government, but in a private government. This is a vice we need to fight against to ensure that our children, our people of Mackenzie, our people of Kanfinsa, our people of Chipangali, our people of Monze, everybody in this country can access much needed services, because if corruption creeps in, then you find that our people fail even to access medical facilities, school, and all that. Then what are we doing for the country? So it's important that we continue this fight and support the President, His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to ensure that we have a Zambia which is free of corruption, and to ensure that we foster development in this country. It can only be facilitated or done, it will be done if we fight and we stamp out corruption from very low levels, from the markets until the higher levels or the higher offices. That is where corruption is. Corruption is not only found at one place or a particular ministry, but it's at all levels. So we need all to work together. It's not a fight for one person, because one person can't achieve. But we should also ensure that we...
Bwana Mkubwa, Member of Parliament Warren Mombazi, has come to the aid of a woman who has been battling with breast cancer for some years. Messi Mwewa, 42, of Twashuka Ward, received a wheelchair and other assorted foodstuffs. Mr. Mombazi pledged he will try to engage the health facility nearby to help her with the needed medicine. And Mercy Mwewa, a mother of 6, among which 3 are visually impaired, says she spends about 750 kwacha monthly, diapers and bandages for cleaning her wound.
Banja kuidisha kona pa mtu wa divine noni bakasanga tininde ko kutenda no kubunda mashira kufa mabotolo hadi for divine noni nishibanja fuwa na papata 750 limo na papata fu banja po uti fu na desa bafu ishi banja na babomba wote tu Messi mwiwa
wana mwaka tabanga
6 batatu tabalolisha lebuidisheni ko mwe bantu na pa kuikana lebuidisheni ko na papata lebuidisheni.
When we saw it on news, I think it was imperative that we just come to so that we can see how we can help, because these people that are relying on us as citizens, leaders, and members of parliament, they are councillors, so that we can see how we can render help. You can see she's in pain, and she's been suffering for a long time. She's done chemotherapy, she can't walk, so we thought let's help her with a wheelchair so that she can even people are helping to take care of her. They can at least have easy access, because she was just being lifted, so that at least they can have easy access to move her in and out of the house, you can have some fresh air, and also even to just lighten the burden, and also just to provide a few foodstuffs. And I thought also will come, because the councillor is always here in the world. But even going forward, they can be coming to check on her. We need supplies, from the clinic.
Quite sad reading that story. Well, we continue with the news. Mental health expert David Seta has urged government to increase investment in mental health and the integration of services at primary health care facilities in response to the need for people with depression to seek and get help. Speaking in an interview with Muvi TV News in Lusaka, Mr. Seta says the current facilities do not have enough capacity to address the current continued increasing demand for mental health services in the country that have arisen due to the advent of COVID-19 and other challenges that have arisen in the world. Mr. Seta also notes there is need for government to engage mental health practitioners with the updated knowledge that can be used to address the new challenges being faced in the world. He further says there is need for government to revisit and upgrade the current facilities by ensuring that mental health services are decentralized in the country.
Now, with the pandemic that we just went through, I mean, no one can ever plan for what to do when a pandemic such as COVID comes, because it was the first time the whole world was experiencing it, correct? And the backlash of this COVID now has brought this high increase in mental health issues all around our society. I mean, social media is sharing a story almost on a daily basis of something mental health related that has happened. So now, what government has to do, what the necessary parties have to do now, is now begin to revisit how the mental health system can now be innovated to meet this high demand.
You're still watching the Primetime News. For now, we take another break. We'll be right back.
They'll play a high press to force the mistakes. They'll dominate the aerial ball. They too tall. We'll handle the pressure and smash them on the break. The number 9 has scored in their last 5 games. The passing will be quick, decisive, precisely. There will be drama in the dying minutes. This match will mean more than 3 points. They will have the home ground advantage. This is why I bet. This is why I bet. This is why I bet. Betway.
Fairview University College is enrolling students for the January-April 2022 intake in the following: School of Education, Bachelor of Education in Early Childhood Education, Bachelor of Education in Primary Education, Bachelor of Education in Secondary Education, Bachelor of Education in Special Education, Diploma in Early Childhood Education, Diploma in Primary Education, Diploma in Secondary Education, Diploma in Special Education, Certificate in Early Childhood Education, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Diploma in Public Relations, School of Hotel and Tourism, Diploma in Food and Production, Diploma in Front Office, Diploma in Food and Beverages Management, Diploma in Hospitality and Events Management, and Diploma in Sales and Marketing. For more information, visit us at Regent College along Kwazi Road or the North Mid Campus at plot number 11 Luamba Road, Lusaka, or call us on 0955 787114 or 0966 787114 or 0977 787114. Fairview University College. We aim at excellence.
Welcome back, and now for the rest of the news. Former Patriotic Front PF National Youth Chairperson Kelvin Sampa has described the demise of the late 4th Republican President Rupia Banda as heartbreaking to his life. Mr. Sampa says he worked hand in hand with the late Mr. Banda during his days UNIP, as he taught him now how to do clean politics, which he says has made him who he is today. He has called on Zambians to mourn Mr. Banda in a dignified manner. 12 Zambian students who were stuck in the city of Sumy in Ukraine on Sunday morning of 13th March 2022 arrived in the country aboard Qatar Airways from Warsaw, Poland. The 24-year-old Israel Galu, a student representative, expressed his gratitude to the Zambian government for facilitating the movement back home. And speaking upon receiving the evacuees, the MMU National Coordinator, Dr. Gabriel Pauline, says the evacuation process has now concluded, stating that all Zambians who so wish to be brought back home have been granted their wishes.
It was a joyous moment for these families as they united with their loved ones who were in Ukraine, a nation battling it with its neighbor, the Federation of Russia. These are the 12 Zambian nationals who were stuck in the city of Sumy in the Republic of Ukraine. This group of students arrived in the country Sunday morning on board Qatar Airways through Kenneth Kaunda International Airport in Lusaka. They were received by Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU National Coordinator Dr. Gabriel Pauline. A 24-year-old student representative, Isaiah Gaulo, expressed gratitude to government for facilitating for their movement from Warsaw, Poland to Zambia at the quickest time. Isaiah, who's a fourth-year medical student in Ukraine, says once peace is guaranteed in that country, he would love to return to further his education. Speaking to the media shortly, Dr. Gabriel Pauline, who is DMMU National Coordinator, said the evacuation process has been concluded. Since the Federation of Russia invaded the Republic of Ukraine 3 weeks ago, Zambia has managed to evacuate about 81 students who so wish to come back home. Others have opted to stay in Ukraine, while others have opted to stay in Europe. Liambela Mutumba, Muvi TV News.
For the primetime news this evening, to wrap up, we look at the headlines once again. RB to be put to rest on Friday, March 18th, 2022. Veteran politician Vernon Mwanga describes RB as a true patriot. 12 Zambian students who are stuck in Ukraine back home. Park chairperson declined to comment on corruption allegations. HH phones ECO to mourn RB and unite the country. UPND official arrested in Mansa for defiling wife's niece Earth 13. Muslim community in Lusaka calls for concerted efforts in helping the vulnerable. Wow. Thank you so much for having joined us this evening for the primetime news on Muvi TV. Be sure to watch me, Keith Mwemba, for the main news at 21:15 hours. On behalf of the entire production crew, we thank you so much. Good evening and God bless.